What is happening, everybody? This is the Experimental Show. You know the deal. That's Michelle on the left. That was me on the right. This is pretty much where we just get crazy with it. And there's the drawing. There's the definition on the left. Sword. I really wanted to, the experimental part of this, we've made swords at the Ren Fair for quite a long time. It was some of the pieces I've made the most when I was a kid. I was really excited about at the Ren Fair. What I wanted to try with this was using the new tech that you've seen in a few of our previous videos where we pour frit inside of a bubble. So there's just color and speckled, glistening color on the inside of encased in glass. So I wanted to make the handle. Everything's kind of typical about the sword. We don't do these much here and not at the Ren Fair because it's just not really our clientele compared to the Ren Fair when people are getting crazy. But we're going to try it in the blade of the sword, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But to give you a little detail on what's going on here, this is going to be the handle. And this is a long, slippery son of a gun with texture for me to put a neckline in the middle and angle it out like I did. You want this to be really ergonomic when you're wielding this glass dagger. So that's why we put the kind of flare in the middle there. And it went actually pretty smooth, but you saw the jacks kind of moving around on the glass a little bit, perhaps, in the beginning. Then I go, and it's upside down right now, just like making a cup. Michelle and I paddle the bottom. I think she blows it out a little bit more here so we get a little wider on the bottom. But then we're going to flatten the bottom. And every time you do a new sword, I guess it is kind of experimental, the accents you add to it. There's, when you're making drinkware, there's a lot of certain mug shapes. It's a functional thing that people know and expect to be used in a certain way. When you're making, so you're pretty much just experimenting with the color pattern and a little bit of the shape. When you're making a sword, you have a million options, and the options are endless for the decorations you can put on the handle, the guard you're going to put on the handle, everything about it. You can just totally get creative. So I tried to really think outside the box here and do something we haven't done before. This is a ball, a sphere on the bottom, and then I put a couple extra ones on each of the sides of the handles, you'll see, but just did them really hot, left them really round and watery, and just didn't do much with the tool on there. Little dance for you here. Loving the super speed. Heather's doing a great job on these videos, you guys. But there I'm just using gravity, kind of pushing up against the paddle, letting it round itself out. Later on, you're going to see me grab some red stringer, and I'm going to put some red, kind of almost like jewel accents along the side of the piece, and it matches the red Renaissanceian blade that we're going to do as well. But cutting in the edge there, getting lined up, it went on perfect. Michelle was bringing over bits like a champ, super hot, straight from the furnace. But we're going to get that on there. We're going to flip it around, punny it up. Like I say on most of the experimental shows, look at that shot. That's cool. I think I just called it the gazing ball. And there I am gazing at it. But Michelle's just been doing a great job on the show. Like I've mentioned many times, she doesn't blow glass every day like the rest of us do in the shop here. So she used to blow glass every day, designing her own products, obviously starting the business with Chris. But to jump back in the shop and just kind of get a swing of it and work with someone else that's in the shop, it can be a little daunting. And she doesn't know all the little fine details of where the tool lands and how we do this and what tool gets waxed. We have a certain style at our shop that every shop does. And if I went to a different shop, I know how to blow glass. I could fit right in, but you don't know all those little nuanced things like your own shop. And this is her shop, but she's not in here every day. So just a little kudos to her for being there and just running with it and doing an amazing job. It looks really good. Here, there you go, you guys. Did you understand that? Little chop, little smack. Actually, I remember this is where I was talking with Chris. I was asking him, because I haven't made a sword. We didn't even make any at the Ren Fair last year. We kind of forgot about them. But I was asking, how's the placement of the sword onto the handle? It's a wide, thin blade, so it can't just go on one round platform like that, like the first ball on the backside did. So this was my design originally, but then I kind of altered it just a hair so that it's going to have a sphere on the other side too, and that makes it an ovular wide shape for a flattened rectangular blade to sit on and connect completely. You guys will see that in a minute. But another sphere, getting that one solidified. And when it's so juicy like that, you can't just go on to the next one. You got to let it solidify a little bit. Otherwise, I'll be putting this one on and it'll be dripping off the backside. But look at how satisfying that is. If that's not something like hashtag satisfying or something to make into a little reel or something on Instagram, I don't know what is. It just dripped on there. Super nice. Little torch action for the cut mark. And then I'm using the Taglia. I remember thinking there I shouldn't be touching the handle too much with that. It was hot. That Taglia would burn your hand, but that's still cold in relative to the handle, which is probably at 1,000 degrees, which is right at that breaking temperature. Here I got the red stringer, and as soon as I lit it, it was just thick enough that as soon as you hit the torch to it, it popped off the end, and I know I shot a little piece over at Michelle, and I apologize for that, but here this goes. It takes a steady hand, and you got to swirl it just right to get that on there. If you have a couple too many coffees, you can't make, this is how you make like snowman eyes and a couple other products that we do. You can't do these if you got the jitters. It just doesn't do. So those are just swirl on really nice. After the blade, I think I put a few on the blade as well that look super good. But this was just cool. I've never done that before. We don't have a hot torch out at the Renaissance either. We just use the map gas, which is that yellow portable torch, which is fun for us. And we use a lot of our secondary tools out there. And it's a really cool challenge to go out there and be blowing glass outside with not the straightest pipes, not the sharpest shears, and then to not have some of the main tools like a torch. It's makes us think outside the box, and it's kind of like being in the Renaissance times, and that's part of many things that appeal to us to be out there. And we always say it when the time's coming up. If you guys are local, or if not, it's well worth the trip. Michigan has one of the biggest Renaissance festivals around. I got to stop talking about that now, because notice what I did here. Blew out a bubble. I popped a hole in the bottom, so I'm still on the blowpipe right now, but if I blew through it, it'd be like a trumpet. I could probably make sound with it. But I'm shaping it up. I'm also pushing down with the tips of the tweezers right where that neck was so that I'm getting that tapered shape. I also left it really thick on the bottom. If it was too thin, it would fold and it wouldn't have a good connection when we hit it to the blade. Here comes Chris with the red frit. Look at how hot it still is. It's bending, it's moving. I gotta flip it. Get 2 good scoops in there. That's probably like $6-7 a color. Right in the blade of that sword right there. And then I'm gonna keep this angle while I'm heating it. In order to keep that angle, my left hand, I'm slowly creeping it back. My left hand was frying right there for holding it so long. I had to get out of there. Dumped out any of the extra. And now it's a little hard to tell, but there's red on the inside. And I'm going to flatten this down, squish it down. Now you can kind of see there's a different tone to that inside. What I realized, and I thought this is why it's experimental, I didn't think that it would melt in enough that it wouldn't just look like I took a small gather of red and then took a gather of clear over top. I wanted it to have that sparkle, extra little bling bling, but in the end, you'll see the final piece here. It just looks like it's been encased, and that's cool. It's what the experimental is for, to understand that. Here comes Michelle with a really nice move right on the punny. She knew I was focusing on the blade a lot. It was probably a little chilly, but the blade went on perfect. Stuck it right on center. Super nice. It's flopping all over the place. The thing with swords is that's more glass than I even had on the whole bottom half. So it takes a second for that to cool down and stiffen up. And you really got to focus on your shape of your blade, cooling the blade, and keeping some heat on that bottom edge. Super important. So I'm heating really deep. This one I started heating up the tip again because I touched it with the tweezers and it had a little bend to it. And right here I wanted to cut that off and straighten out, there you go, the blade. But it's got great proportions. I love it. I could have probably stretched it out a little taller and thinner, but they just get so long so freaking fast that I just didn't want to get out of control with it. It's glowing, but that's from the heat of the glass. You can never see the true red completely while it's hot. But I was looking at it, needed a little something else, so here I went for the stringer again and added 3 more little spheres onto the blade. They're kind of like jewels there. I was like, let's do it right there. Kind of matches that base. And this was, I was a little nervous. This was the end of the piece. To hand it off to someone else like this when it's at the most fragile point, ready to pop off the pipe. It was risking it a little bit, but risking it for the jewels. Come on. So risk it for the jewels. I think I put 3 on either side here. And it really kind of just closed it in real nice. Super satisfying. I love putting those on. It's super cool. Hand's starting to get hot. The shorter that stick gets, the hotter it gets. I don't know what I was shaking my head at there. But that's it. Big thumbs up. Oh yeah, the final picture. Boom. You notice there's a break in the tip there, folks. That's a broken piece. So that's just treachery, but let us know what you thought of that, guys. Drop a comment in there. Share the feed. Spread it around. Tell your friends and family. If you appreciate glass blowing and want to watch the show more, you know what the deal is. Tuesday nights, 6 to 8, we're live, and we appreciate you all. Check us out on social media, and looking forward to the next one, you guys. Take it easy.